thanks for doing this. This is about you and your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
All right.
Right on, Dan. Well, tell me, I did see that you're from Portland. Are you born and raised in Portland?
Not born and raised, but I've been here for the past 16 or so years. So
Okay.
a
Where were
little
you born
while.
and raised? Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
I was born in Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How was
So
that?
it's cool. It was cool. Growing up near New York City was pretty awesome. So
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I took it for what it was and then got out of there. So
Yeah, I was gonna say you came all the way across the whole country, huh? Like pretty
yeah.
much, I mean, directly across. Wow. Well, how did you get into music?
Uh, Basically started in fourth grade, fifth grade, playing trumpet, and took it from there. Just turned out it was in my head, so I kept going with it. Yeah, I think the way that most people do. So
Okay, right on. So
yeah,
trumpet, was that like for the school band or something? Or
school band. Yep,
okay.
they let us at it pretty early on in elementary school. So I took it, tried to figure it out, tried to learn it, and still trying to.
Right on. Did you continue trumpet through like high school and college?
Through high school, yeah, I did marching band, and
Okay.
that actually had a pretty big impact on me musically. Just having that kind of a sonic like hug all around you in a field and getting
Sure.
to hear the way that it plays off of things. I think reflecting on that, it really kind of stuck with me. So
Okay, very
thanks
cool.
for
What about
asking.
yeah. What about bands other than the marching band?
You mean like
Like, did
making
you
high
play?
schoal bands and such
Yeah,
like
did you
that?
jam with your friends or anything? Or
A little bit. I wasn't cool enough for them.
oh, okay. Well, I see a guitar back there. When did you pick up the guitar?
uh, that was in 14, around 14, so middle
Okay.
school.
Okay. And when did you start writing songs?
Uh, Probably about that same time, around sixth grade. Started writing stuff in my head and going into the technology classroom and writing out lyrics. It was really
Oh,
cool, you know.
yeah. Did you record any of it?
Uh, in high school,
Okay.
in high school,
More
like
of a solo thing. I mean, you were saying that you didn't really play in a band.
yeah, it was. I mean, it still kind of is a weird solo thing. Like I
Yeah.
put it
Now.
all together
Yeah. Sure.
and then farm it out a little bit, but yeah, yeah,
Okay. Did you play like open mic nights or anything?
not really. That's I I was always drawn a little bit more towards the crafting of of sound and
Mhm.
music and song more so than the live performance of it. That came a little later,
Oh, okay. When did you start doing the live performances?
like 8 years ago.
Oh, okay. Right on. Well, okay, so what took you to Portland?
uh, Winemaking, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Did you like how did you get into that?
Just out of curiosity, I was moving from Boston after living there for a year and had a bottle of wine with some friends, and I really wasn't. I didn't drink,
Hmm.
and it just kind of it caught me. It was really cool, and so I got into it and wondered how it was made, and just made my way into wineries and into winemaking, and kept up with that.
Wow. So you never drank prior and then you just had this bottle of wine with your buddies and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get into this.
Pretty much,
Oh,
it
wow,
was one of those
interesting.
things like, wow, this is really cool. This is a different world, and it wasn't drinking to get drunk or anything like that. It was just
Sure.
a celebratory thing. It's like, wow, this is pretty neat. And then you start working in vineyards, and it's pretty glamorous, even though it's not, because you're in beautiful surroundings. So
Right,
I
right.
could see this being a part of my life.
Well, that's
Uh,
cool.
yeah.
And
So
then how did you get into the children's music in that whole realm?
had a kid.
Okay. That
So
makes it easy.
yeah, it was after my kiddo was born, I was spending a lot of time with him, and we were just very musical together. uh
Okay.
and so as we started doing these little rhymes and songs and such like that, just on the driving to and from daycare and on our days together, I just figured, what the hey, I'll make some songs,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll try not to make them bad. So yeah, that took me down this whole journey, and put it up to Kickstarter, and folks funded it very rapidly, and it seemed like that was a good sign. And so
Yeah.
I went, pretty straightforward with it, like as fast and as furious as I could to make connections and see where it could take me. And
Yeah.
I'm still getting to do it.
For sure. Sure. So you this was all just, it started out as just you writing songs for your son.
Yeah.
And then how did this Kickstarter start and people started here? Like, how did people know that you were doing this? Were you passing it around the daycare, or like how did
No,
that
no.
start?
That's a really good question. I think it was just, I had shared it with a few folks, and they're like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm like, all right, cool. And like Kickstarter was a big thing back in 2013, 2014. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, why not try and actually make a physical CD out of this, because that was still a thing then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, here's the amount of money it would take, so why don't I draw some attention to it, see if folks would be willing to do it, because I didn't have the funds.
Mm-hmm.
So the way Kickstarter works, and
Sure.
we just tried to make a good program out of it, and we got the word out early, and people caught on to it, and we had a little pre-release party with some cupcakes and a live performance. You asked about live performance. There it was.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the first one you ever did?
Pretty much. I
Wow.
mean, I had done some stuff, but like that was the first time in a long time. So
Okay. So you did that performance, and then that's the Swordfish Tango. Is that the record?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
one. You did a little research. Cool.
Well, after you put that record out, then what did you do with it? Like, after, did you play, different like kid shows, or like how did the
Yeah.
career start?
That kind of launched a whole push to start doing local live performance.
Okay.
So that pushed me into performing out live at some local cafes and other things. And then we started, I realized how many folks there were doing music for families here in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So then that really put together a big push for all of us to kind of get together, because I was reaching out to all these folks, and there's some other folks who were starting off and doing other things better than I was at that point. And it was really cool. So we started doing live performances as like kind of a super group for Portland,
Okay. Sure.
of all the family performers that were around. And it just, it led to a nice little understanding of how live music works in venues around town, and having weekly and monthly gigs.
Very cool. And then with the next record, the Flight of the Blue Whale, was that also like Kickstarter funded, or at that point were you able to?
That one was still Kickstarter.
Okay.
Yeah, because Swordfish Tango was nice like, as I was saying, it got me out into the community and gave me the chance to be acquainted with the community.
Mm-hmm.
And then through that first Kickstarter, I was able to deal with mastering and mixing. And so I met an engineer who became a close friend, and he and I had access to a studio where we put together Flight of the Blue Whale. So we were able to, again, craft like an entire album, and then I could just put it out to the community and say, hey, this is what it's going to cost to put this out.
Got it.
What do you think? Can we do this? Can we do it quickly?
Mm-hmm.
It's better than it was before. It's like a lot better than it was before. So yeah, that one was Kickstarter. And then the first song off of that, Red Fox, ended up being spun quite frequently on SiriusXM.
Wow.
Through their children's channel.
That's amazing.
Live. So then that traction allowed me to go forward onto this path where I no longer need to ask folks directly for money to.
That's awesome. So once I get on, do you remember getting a call or finding out that you're going to get your song on XM?
No, I mean, it's a very easy submission process, where they say, hey, send your stuff here. Right.
Right.
So
but how many people send their stuff there and they just go, I worked in radio for 15 years. I know about the. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. So yeah, there was I mean, as I said, I was doing a lot of networking as well. So there was this thing called KindyCom in
Okay.
Philadelphia, put together by WXPN, where they'd have people come from wherever they were willing to come from, and they could all, fraternize and get together. And so there was some of the hosts from SiriusXM and all these other radio stations who said, "Here's a box, put your CDs in there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll listen, promise." Just like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Try. And no, I found out that it was on there because the Facebook message from somebody who was just like, "Hey man, when does this come out?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Like, "I just heard your song." Like, "How did you hear my song? This isn't." It's like, "It was on Sirius." Oh,
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 wow.
oh, like, I think I just leveled up.
That's awesome. And then did
Yeah.
you end up when did you hear for the first time on the radio? Did you buy a Sirius player at that point? I would have.
It, we did, but not at that point. We
Okay.
we were broke. So
Okay.
so it took us a couple of years to get to the Sirius, but it was no, I got to hear it on local radio,
Oh, that's awesome.
which was super exciting.
That is really cool.
So
And with the success of that and people hearing it on Sirius, did that open up the doors for you quite a bit more, or from there were you able to play different cities? Because yeah, obviously Sirius is nationwide.
yeah, no, that was a major step. Um, we didn't. I mean, I'm still not great at putting together the whole touring thing because I do still have the day job full time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I guess that's not really an excuse, is it? To anyone listening, you can do it. Just do it better. Yeah, no, it did open up some avenues where we were able to go up to Seattle, and then we were able to perform locally for a number of larger things. Like
Okay.
Pickathon would be probably the biggest thing that happened at that point, if you've heard of that festival.
No. What's that about?
It's a local Oregon festival, but it draws in acts nationally and
Oh,
internationally, and
right.
it's a lot of folks who are like on the cusp
Of
of
really
really just
breaking in.
going big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
like Patrick Watson and Leon Bridges were there,
Oh, okay.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it got bigger and bigger. And so the last time we went, like Jeff Tweedy was part of the headline. So
Oh, wow, that's cool.
it's really cool. You should definitely go ahead and YouTube some of the concerts that are available.
Yeah, I will. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So that record was the first one that really got you, airplay and to the next
Yeah.
level. And then the following album, the Between the Waves and the Cardoons, what was the like highlight of that record?
Oh man. I'm going through it all here with you.
Yeah.
Thank God. That one also ended up having the first song on it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, The Waves.
Mhm.
Sorry, I you came better prepared than I did, knowing all of my albums. The Waves ended up becoming again another pretty big hit on SiriusXM.
Mhm.
And with that, we also had a few more opportunities to perform on larger platforms and go back to Pickathon. And
Oh, cool.
also, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that one really again kind of got us to another level of being able to go into a studio and have connections and have the financial support to do another record after
Another
that, which
record.
is it's kind of a fun little cycle once you can get into it. If you can get just these three boxes kind of checked off immediately, then
Mhm.
you can kind of see from there, like, okay, this was the last one, or I get to have one more maybe.
Mhm.
It's the way that I look at it. I'm not sure if that's like fatalistic or not, but I always kind of wonder, is this going to be, is
It
this the finale?
Sure, but obviously not. You just put a record out, what, about a little over a month ago,
Yeah.
or an EP?
An EP, yeah.
Yeah. So prior to the EP that you put out, I mean, I want to know, were you writing that record or still supporting the previous record when COVID happened and everything shut down? Like, where were you when that all took place?
Kind of got into the sweet spot after everything's been released, and with the last record prior to that, you know, we had got to do like a nice little radio tour and such like that in the East Coast, which was great. And then, you know, had like the summer performances, and as that stuff felt like it was just a nice welcome and hug to that whole album, the stress and the anxiety of what it takes to put everything out started to settle, so that way my hands could kind of go back onto the piano and like feel comfortable just letting
Mhm.
ideas, you know, go to voice memo or whatever, and
Sure.
gifting it forward to myself a couple months down the line to listen to.
Okay.
um, so yeah, I was working on some basic shells and ideas for songs as the world started to shut down through COVID.
Okay. And
And as that hit, I just said, all right, well, I'm gonna nix the idea of having to do a full album, and I just want to concentrate on making these 4 or 5 songs as best as I possibly can.
okay. And did you start like how quickly into that did you go to the studio and how were you able to accomplish that? I mean, obviously with the restrictions and everything else that were going on.
Yeah, well, it was it was a really good excuse to totally change what we had been doing.
Okay.
Uh, so, like I said, I had a good friend who is an engineer, and he and I had done, you know, 3 albums together, where we would demo it out, go into the studio, and polish it up. And through all of that, I kind of learned to make my demos as polished as I could.
Oh, okay.
So, with this, what I did is I made the demos as polished. Everything was put into place the best that I could, so that way, you know, I could even pull from the demo to put into a final recording. You know,
Oh,
like
awesome.
trying,
Yeah.
like just trying to really get the craft
Mhm.
honed in enough so that if you don't have the time,
You could
or you
still pull from
can't,
the demo.
yeah, if you can't quite get the magic of those backing vocals, at
Right.
least you didn't do it on a terrible microphone in a noisy setting, you know,
Sure,
and you
sure.
could still. So that was kind of the way that I had gotten everything set up for the EP. And then I reached out to a friend, Pat Hanlon, who's in Boston, and said, "Hey man, you live in a recording studio and you can play every instrument.
Uh-huh.
What do you think?" You know, he had been producing for some other folks, so it's just like, what do you think? You know, we've always gotten along. You've always liked this stuff.
Mhm.
Do you like these enough to play on it? And so he said, yeah. And between he and I, you know, I did a lot of keys parts and vocals and, you know, synth stuff
Mhm.
here at the house, and, you know, just invested in a good interface and all that kind of stuff. And then he took over on doing the drums, doing some extra keys, and then he was able to bring in safely, and, you know, with distance and masks and all that,
Sure.
brought in a buddy who played bass, which this was interesting because it was the first time that it wasn't me playing bass on an album.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, all right, well, let's see what he does. It's like, oh yeah, when you just concentrate on bass, you're a lot better than I am. So I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then brought in the horn players and string players, and ultimately it all came together pretty quickly and safely, thankfully for everyone. And I think the product turned out pretty well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And then you again, this was I did read that this is like a family affair. Was your wife and your kid involved in the prior albums at all, or was this the
Yeah.
first one? Okay.
Yeah. No, as we started, uh where was it? And as we started going on to Flight of the Blue Whale, or actually no, it started before that. Even with Swordfish Tango, my wife is a choir teacher.
Oh, okay.
So I roped her into recording her choir, like the middle school
Oh,
choir
that's
for backing
amazing.
vocals. And then as we got into doing the next album, Flight of the Blue Whale, I had actually asked her if she would sing fully
Hmm.
for a tune.
Okay.
And as folks heard that, they're just like, "Yo, you got to feature your wife more." I was like, "Cool, I like your voice too."
Yeah, sure.
So it became a thing where I was just like, "Hey, like you're a better singer than I am. You're helping a lot. Can you please feature yourself solo on this song and do these harmonies for me, please?" And yeah, it's worked out really well. And she became a part of the live performance. And as now my son is coming upon 10, he has taken up a part of the live performance. He's got great rhythm, so he loves playing shaker or anything that has to do with percussion.
Okay.
uh and then on this EP, on Dreams, I asked him to actually sing with me. So,
That's awesome. How was
get him
that?
some.
That must have been pretty cool to share that moment with him.
It is cool. I mean, unfortunately for him, our basement is not as glorious as the recording studio. So
So you
his
could
first
record it at
experience.
home during this whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you create enough of an isolation for yourself and you just have good equipment available,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, so
the,
that's cool.
the,
So you
the
got a chance to sing. You're gonna say that it wasn't as glamorous as like going into a major studio.
no, nowhere near as glamorous, because it's like, oh yeah, and there's your Legos.
Sure.
Hold on, dude. Just put those down, and I just need you to sing this part.
Yeah, that's
But
cool. That's still
yeah,
cool that he's featured on the record. That's really awesome. And then you had like an illustration. Like, what's this? You hired like a Portland-based illustrator to do what, the record cover or the artwork or?
yeah. I've been working with Brooke Weber. She goes
Mhm.
by Little Canoe. You can find her on Pinterest and all those wonderful places under that handle. She's been working with us since Flight of the Blue Whale. Um, she's just amazing.
Yeah.
I
So
kind of I
all the previous album covers are all her.
everything except for Swordfish Tango.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So she came on, and together we've just kind of been honing in on what each other's style is
Mhm.
combined. And I feel like on this one she just knocked it out of the park. Like that, I gave her my own little sketch of what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
It's like, here's my kindergarten sketch, and it's got a
Right.
peacock and these little things, and then it's just insane. Like, especially since she's gone all digital with it, it's really just phenomenally beautiful.
That's
So
really cool. That's really cool. And
yeah.
with the record, how are obviously you can't tour right now. So have you been promoting it? Just like, have you been doing like live streams or stuff like that for the kids or?
We did do a live stream kind of release for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um but I haven't really been able to do too much through it, unfortunately, because
Okay.
I am still working full time, and things have not been easy on that end to find the time.
Sure.
Uh and also with the way thing, I mean, we're homeschooling at this
Mm-hmm.
point. The schools are just opening back up, so my wife is now going back into full-time teaching in person.
Okay.
So now we're transitioning from having, the home office to
Right.
aka the table.
Yeah. Right. The living room.
Exactly. So no, the I haven't been able to get on top of this one as much as I was hoping.
Okay.
Uh,
Well,
Also, I think I'm learning that a little later in the year might be a preferred time to release. So
yeah. Well, hopefully things will be opening up by that point as well, and
yeah,
get out there and
yeah,
do some shows.
yeah. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but it has been a really cool time, and I think it has been for a lot of musicians to kind of hone in on how to do more
Mm-hmm.
with what you've got,
Sure.
or buy a little extra something to kind of make the sound for when we can get back to it. It's going to be that much more of a treat.
Sure.
So you know, it's kind of been an amazing process for that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And Dan, thank you so much for chatting with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Adam, thanks so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, I have one more question for you. I
Yes,
want to
sir.
know, do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Yeah. Do it. Do it as best and as big as you can all of the time. And whenever you feel just on edge as to whether or not you should, or if it seems like too big of a leap, just make it. Just try. Talk to everyone.
Bringing it backward.